In this module, I will be discussing that how to develop as some of that biomedical device prototype. Just to give an example, I will discuss that results from our own research, that is that acetabular socket development of high density polyethylene, HDP, hydroxyapatite and alumina based materials, that is what we call as a hybrid composite. Why hybrid? Because it contains both the ceramic phase and polymer phase together. So, just to refresh our mind with this total hip replacement thing. So, you have a metallic femoral head and you have a ultra high molecular polyethylene, that acetabular liner. So, this ultra high molecular polyethylene, that is a plastic liner, this is the acetabular component, and then this metallic femoral head, it will go straight and then fit it, and this is a metallic femoral stem and this is the neck of the stem. This femoral head, this stem goes into this femoral cavity. Now, what is most important for us or for the discussion in this module is that whether this clinically used ultra high molecular weight polyethylene, that is highly cross linked ultra high polyethylene, can be replaced with one of the materials that we have investigated for last 6 to 7 years, and that is high density polyethylene hydroxide alumina. So, any of these so some more details on material selection for acetabular cup or acetabular socket component. Now, in this module I will be interchangeably using that cup and socket. So, although they are all synonymous. So, there is one class of THR implants, essentially hard on hard implants. Hard on hard means you can use both ceramic as the acetabular socket and ceramic as the femoral ball head together. So, both this guy and this guy can be made of ceramic, or it can be made up of the metal. For example, metal on metal like cobalt chrome is a popular choice. So, the second one is that hard on soft implants. What is the meaning of hard and soft? This guy can be either metal or ceramic, and this can be polymer, that is acetabular socket can be polymer, and here ultra high molecular polyethylene can be used, but ultra high molecular polyethylene has densely packed linear polyethylene chains, which gives increased crystallinity as well as improved mechanical properties. But however, ultra high molecular polyethylene does not have a large elongation to failure and also has a poor fracture toughness, and as a result, and also it has a poor wear resistance. As a result, ultra high molecular polyethylene is susceptible to wear, and therefore, that leads to this wear debris particle particle generation in the in vivo, and these wear debris particles, depending on their size and shape, they can cause certain inflammatory reaction in the in vivo conditions. That is number one. Number two is that if the wear is very extensive, then patient has to undergo the replacement surgery or the revision surgery. That means the patient has to go to hospital and go to that operation theatre again. So, there are three starting powders, one is high density polyethylene, hydroxide and alumina, and then you do ball milling. Now, as you see that high density polyethylene has a very simple polymeric chain, carbon hydrogen, hydroxyapatite has a different composition, organic inorganic composition, alumina has different inorganic composition. If you do not couple these things by chemical means like using a coupling agent or reactive fillers, you cannot do much in terms of the achieving better and mechanical properties. So, coupling agent, essentially this coupling agent can be titanate coupling agent, so on. This coupling agent essentially help in establishing certain chemical bondage of that inorganic component with that of the high density polyethylene. So, anytime this kind of prototype development work is there or research is there, first one has to do is that lab scale experiment. Lab scale experiment means one can start with that compression molding of these materials, and for example, I mean you can do injection molding, you can do compression molding, these kind of polymer ceramic composites. So, one can do the lab scale experiments. So, lab scale experiments essentially start with simple shaped biomaterials. Now, simple shaped biomaterials means you can do compression molding and with a very simplistic mold shape and all. So, compression molding and then it can give you let us say phi is equal to 10 millimeter diameter samples, and you can do standard tests. Now, the standard test can be either physical property measurements like hardness, strength and so on of these materials, strength, wear resistance properties. Then second thing, you can do some in vitro cytocompatibility property, and followed by one can conduct that in vivo biocompatibility of selected samples. Okay. So, this so what one has to do is that first one has to screen what is that optimal composition . Now, let us talk about little bit of the material science here. Let us say you have high density polyethylene as a matrix and you have x percent HA and you have a y percent alumina. So, first you have to optimize that percentage of the x and y. Now, here you have to consider that what is the processability or ease of processing versus properties. Now, HDP although it has a low strength, but it has some beneficial properties like large elongation to failure. High density hydroxide and alumina, this is ceramic phase, inorganic phase. The moment you add this to HDP, then it will decrease this elongation to failure. Instead, it will increase both elastic modulus and hardness of these materials and strength of the materials. Having said this, more and more hydroxide and more alumina is present in the high density polyethylene matrix, it will have an opposing effect on the processability or moldability, because by adding that hydroxyapatite and by adding this alumina, your viscosity would increase of that HDP melt would increase. So, higher the viscosity, more is to mold this kind of materials, or more difficult is to give certain shape to these materials. So, you have to critically consider the processability of this material versus what are the properties of these materials. So, as I said that one of the major motivation to develop high density polyethylene hydroxide alumina is to enhance that wear resistance properties of this material, and this typically wear resistance is investigated using that fretting mode. Fretting essentially means that is a ball on flat type of configuration. So, this ball is made to slide in a reciprocatory motion against this flat material, and this relative displacement amplitude is of the order of 100 to 200 micron, that is called stroke length. Now, when this kind of reciprocatory motion is there, when this kind of stroke length is there, then what will happen is that these at this region, interaction region, there is wear debris particles will be generated, or this HDP composite will experience that wear loss and so on. So, one can measure that wear rate. Now, two aspects we have studied. We have changed the interface, you have changed the counter body. We have used three different counter body, one is steel, one is alumina and one is zirconia. The selection of these three counter body can be rationalized from the fact that stainless steel based material is widely used is one of the femoral head. Alumina and zirconia, these are other two potential femoral head materials. So, essentially we are trying to simulate what is the exact contact conditions that essentially is present here, for example. So, I am saying that femoral ball head can be either alumina or zirconia, and then acetabular socket, we are saying that instead of ultrahydrogen polyethylene, this part we are trying to replace by HDPE HAP alumina. So, therefore, we need to study that in a simplistic, more simplistic scenario in the lab scale experiments, we have to conduct that fretting study between that femoral head and acetabular socket. Okay. And then you can measure that what is the friction values, and these fretting experiments can be conducted under ambient conditions and under SBF conditions. SBF stands for simulated body fluid. So, under these two different conditions, when you use this alumina, whether when you use the zirconia and when you use the steel, in all these cases what you see that coefficient of friction typically varies in the close window of 0.07 to 0.12. The same is true for 0.11 to 0.7. So, depending on the steel, zirconia and alumina, typically the coefficient of steady state coefficient of friction is less than 0.1. So, lower the coefficient of friction, better it is. Now, in terms of the wear resistance, what you notice here, as you increase the hardness of the flat material, that is that high density polyethylene or say alumina, then wear rate sequentially decreases, or systematically decreases. What it means, by adding hydroxide alumina to high density polyethylene, you can increase the hardness of the material, but you also increase that wear resistance of the material without compromising much on that frictional properties. Some of the in vitro results. So, we have used both L929 mouse fibroblast and sarcoma, osteosarcoma cell lines. We have done MTT, and then we have followed that ISO 109931, that is the typical guidelines. So, this is that ACM scanning electron microscopy image of the sarcoma osteosarcoma cells, which essentially shows that typical flat morphology, which is exactly that is the osteoblast like cells that they will exhibit, that is the typical morphology. Now, in terms of number of days in culture, in 3 days, 5 days and 7 days, you see that mean optical density also increases, essentially that more and more number of mitochondrially viable cells increase with time in culture. In terms of the in vivo implantation, we have done two type of experiments for two different time period, both in rabbit. So, in one case we have used femoral bone defect model, as I have also mentioned in some of my earlier lecture. In another module, and another case we have used large segmental defect. Large segmental defect means some part of the femur is cut, and then you implant the similar sized implant to fill that large segmental defect. So, instead of making hole, you can simply cut the femoral part, femur part, and then put the implant there. There is something in biomaterials literature, there is some other term is there, that is called critical size defect. So, it is also one type of the segmental defect. The term critical size defect essentially means the defect's length is around 2 to 3 times of the diameter of the anatomical location or anatomical part where you are placing. So, to substantiate this statement, what I am saying is that, for example, if you are putting that critical size defect in the femoral femur part of an animal. So, you know what is the femur diameter, the length of the segmental defect should be 2 to 3 times than that of the femur diameter, then only you call the critical size defect. Now, in all these cases, one is to see that how this critical size defect is healed over several time frame or several time span. And so, therefore, in the large segmental defect we have done at All Institute of Medical Science, where we have done this experience up to 26 weeks. And a femoral bone defect model, we have done these experiments, all these femoral bone defect model we have done these experiments at Sucheta University Institute of Medical Science and Technology, and that is for 12 weeks, and 12 weeks typically people call it as a short term implantation experiments. Then after that you see these histology images and so on, and this is your ACM image. In both the cases you see that there is a neobone generation, and you can say that is Haversian remodeling, and this is clearly shown at the interface zone, and this is your cortical bone, that is the host bone. Here also it is a cortical bone, and then another part is your normal implant. This is the case of this implantation in the segmental defect model. Here you can see that it is placed in the sutures and so on, and this is that how this transplant looks like in the X-ray radiograph in the rabbit model. This is more evidence of the new bone formation of the histology slides, that you have this trabecular bone here, that is very spongy, you have the neobone on this material, and you have some osteocytes activity, because osteocytes they appear with different morphology and which can be distinguished from osteoblast, as I have said before. Osteocytes are more star shaped morphology. Now, in the short term implantation we have done some microCT analysis also, and it shows that bone volume to total volume, and then you have done also we have done also this histology images and see that what is the typical bone area of these materials, and what is that bone area in the distal side, in the middle side, and the proximal side. So, normally what you see that with respect to the high density polyethylene, with the high density polyethylene hydroxide alumina composite, not only your osseointegration is uncompromised, but also quantitatively bone contact area increases. That means that this material promotes more and more bone regeneration around this implant. Now, once you establish all this lab, or once you complete all these lab scale experiments, next stage is to acetabular socket acetabular cup development or any device development. So, first thing that one is to do is to get an engineering design file of the device or implant. Now, engineering design file of the implant can be, you can take a commonly used device diameter which is used in a given patient population, or you can take a patient specific dimensions, like you take the CT data from the patient itself, then you convert it to the engineering design file, and that engineering design, based on the engineering design file, either you can give it as an input file to the 3D printer or any rapid prototyping machine, so that you can get a near net shaped device, or based on the engineering design file you now fabricate your experimental processing or manufacturing facility to get this kind of device, let us say acetabular cup development. Okay. Now, this is the Indian patient specific case. What you see that this is your wall thickness is 8 millimeter here, and this is your outer diameter is 44 millimeter, inner diameter is 28 millimeter. So, rest of the thing is your 8 millimeter. Now, this is how that acetabular socket they look like, this acetabular socket, and this is the different aspects. So, first is the engineering design, then you do compression molding in a large scale setup, then this is essentially based on the in vivo osseointegration, and then you can do this ultimate other things is that this total hip joint hip simulator experiments. Now, just to give a snapshot of the things that this first, that whatever I have shown in this particular slide is that first is the lab scale development. Now, lab scale development I have already described. Now, next step is that prototype development, and the prototype development first thing is the designing of the acetabular socket, then designing of the mold, and then various trial runs to get this compression molding, and then you can do this near net shape manufacturing. So, this is the engineering design file. Based on that you can do that compression mold geometry, fabricate this compression mold with a specific geometry, like this is a 3D assembled view and this is the exploded view, and this is the different retainer plates, cavity and cores, and this is the mild steel and then other material that will be used. So, this is the cavity. So, the cavity should reflect that what would be the ultimate shape of the femoral acetabular socket material that you want to develop. This is your core part and this is your retainer plate. So, this core part or retainer plate is that part of this entire compression molding assembly that we are using, and this is the total compression molding assembly as you can see. So, this part of the work can be was carried out in Central Institute of Plastic Engineering Technology, Chennai, and this is through a heating coil arrangement. You can locally heat this entire assembly, but this heating requirement is fairly minimal unlike ceramics. So, here if you heat it at close to 200 or below 200 degrees Celsius and it contains HDPE, that should be fine. Now, earlier I mentioned that coupling agent needs to be used, and one of the coupling agent that we have used, it is titanate based coupling agent with this particular formulation. What you see, this is a titanium in the central, and then all this chemical composition is very characteristic of this particular coupling agent. So, as I said that why coupling agent is necessary, now it is to chemically bridge two dissimilar species, that means to which are chemistry wise different. And so, here is a titanium coupling agent, you have a high density polyethylene, you have a ceramic, and then you get chemical coupling, that means reinforced composite, and therefore, this faster thermoplastic processing can be accomplished. Now, this once you do this powder mixing and ball milling with this coupling agent, this high density polyethylene, what it shows that it shows some titanium and oxygen peak and less weight stretch peak. That means essentially shows that it is hydroxyapatite or hydroxyl groups react with that linker. And also one can notice here that ester peak here, and this is for which is absent in the uncoupled HDP. Now, as far as the processing is concerned, one can use certain 2% or 3% of the coupling agent, and you can do isopropyl alcohol is a medium for this to mix this coupling agent with this powder mix. Then after that you can do this compression molding of this large acetabular socket type of device at 190 degrees Celsius for 1 hour at a very fairly moderate pressure 3 to 7 megapascal. And this is how this compression mold socket that looks like, and this is your as fabricated near net shaped. And so, you do not need to do much machining, or you do not need to do any machining to get the final shaped, and this is kind of really illustration of the near net shaped fabrication of the acetabular socket. Now, this is what can be seen. This is your aluminum femoral head. Somebody is holding this aluminum femoral head with this acetabular socket just to show that how geometrical conformity can be established in this process. So, that aluminum femoral head exactly going inside and fitting into the acetabular socket. And in the process we have also established that what is the fabrication route, how to fabricate this one. Although I have not shown that when we did this microcomputer tomography of the ultra HDPE based socket, we did notice that uniform distribution of hydroxide alumina, and also it is a crack free and pore free composite. So, this process also is capable to produce some of the structurally robust device component. So, this is the some other note that I would like to mention, that we can use the titanium based coupling agent like titanate and so on, and this material has a surface roughness of less than 1 micron, which is clinically acceptable like 0.5 to 0.6 micron. Thank you.